Story 1. The Late Night Shoplifter. I still can't sleep with the lights off. Not after what I saw on the security monitor last Tuesday. If you work the graveyard shift, seriously, quit now before you see something you aren't supposed to. My name is Tyler, and for the last 6 months, I've worked the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift at a gas station out on Highway 9. It's usually dead quiet. You get used to the humming of the slushy machine and the smell of stale coffee. Most nights, my only company is a trucker looking for diesel or teenagers buying energy drinks. It's boring, but it pays the bills. Last Tuesday started normal. I was stocking the cooler, trying to stay awake. Around 3:15 a.m., the door chime went off. It made me jump because I hadn't seen a car pull into the lot. A guy walked in. He was tall, wearing a heavy olive green military jacket even though it was mild outside. He didn't look right. It was the way he moved. It was jerky, like his joints were grinding together with every step. He kept his head down, a baseball cap pulled low so I couldn't see his face. He walked straight past the counter without acknowledging me and went to the back aisle, the one with automotive supplies and random junk. I got a bad feeling instantly. You develop a sixth sense for trouble working nights. I moved back behind the counter, keeping my eye on the convex mirror mounted in the corner of the ceiling. In the reflection, I saw him stop in front of the hardware section. He stood perfectly still for almost a minute. Then his hand shot out, fast like a striking snake, and grabbed something off a peg. It was a pack of those cheap, off-brand AA batteries. That was the first weird thing. People usually steal beer, jerky, or gas, not $3 batteries. The second weird thing was that he didn't try to hide it. He didn't shove it in his jacket. He just held the package in front of his face, staring at it, tilting his head in that sickening, clicking way. Then he turned and started walking toward the door. "Hey buddy, you gotta pay for that," I called out. My voice sounded thin in the empty store. He didn't even pause. The door chimed again, and he stepped out into the dark parking lot. I didn't chase him. No way was I getting paid enough to confront a psycho over batteries. I locked the door immediately. My heart was hammering. I decided I needed to log the incident for my manager, Jerry, so I went into the back office to pull the security footage. The system is old, recording onto digital files that look like bad VHS tapes. I rewound to 3:15 a.m. There I was, stocking the cooler. The door chimed. I watched the screen, waiting for the guy in the green jacket to walk in. The door opened on the monitor, but nobody walked through. I frowned, leaning closer to the grainy screen. The door just opened and closed on its own. I fast-forwarded. On the screen, I saw myself walk behind the counter, looking nervous. I saw myself looking up at the mirror. I was reacting to someone who wasn't there on the tape. Then I saw the item float off the shelf in the back aisle. The pack of batteries just lifted into the air, hovered for a second, and then moved toward the door. I felt cold all over. I wasn't dealing with a crackhead. I don't know what I was dealing with. I grabbed my phone to call the cops, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped it. As I hit dial, I looked back at the live security feed. The guy was back. He was standing right outside the glass doors, motionless. He wasn't looking at the door, though. He was looking up at the external security camera, the one pointed at the lot. I looked at the monitor. The camera feed showed him standing there, but now that he was looking right at the lens, I could see under his cap. He didn't have a face. Where his eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was just smooth, pale skin, like an unformed mannequin. Then the store phone rang. It was the landline right next to me. I jumped about a foot in the air. I shouldn't have answered it, but panic makes you do stupid things. I picked it up. "Hello." The voice on the other end sounded wet, like someone trying to talk with a mouth full of water. "Item defective," the voice gurgled. "Returning." I slammed the phone down. On the monitor, the faceless thing turned and walked away into the darkness, the batteries on the pavement by the door. I sat locked in that office until the sun came up. When Jerry arrived, I tried to explain. He watched the tape. He saw the door open on its own and the floating batteries. He got quiet. He told me to delete the footage and never talk about it. He said it was a glitch. I quit right then. I don't work nights anymore. But the worst part isn't what I saw. It's that yesterday, I went to put fresh batteries in my TV remote. I opened a new pack and one of the batteries was missing. I think he came back to shop at my house. Story 2, the dressing room ghost. You know that feeling when you're the last one left in a huge building, and the silence feels unbelievably heavy, like it's physically pressing down on your eardrums. That was my life every closing shift, but I never expected the silence to actually start talking back. My name is Sarah, and last year I was working retail while trying to put myself through community college. I got a job at this massive discount clothing store called Trends out in a suburban strip mall. It was one of those soul-sucking places with fluorescent lights that hummed constantly, and aisles that always smelled like cheap polyester and floor wax. I usually closed on Tuesdays with my manager, Kevin. Kevin was okay, just lazy. He'd always find an excuse to go check the back-loading dock 10 minutes before locking up, leaving me to do the final sweep of the sales floor alone. Last Tuesday started like any other. We locked the front doors at 9. By 9:30, the store was dim, with only the emergency lights casting long, weird shadows over the racks of clearance jeans. My last job was always the fitting rooms. Our fitting room area was practically a maze, just a long hallway with 12 stalls, 6 on each side. It always felt colder back there. I was clearing out the stalls, grabbing discarded hangers and clothes people were too lazy to bring out. You find gross stuff sometimes, half-eaten food, dirty diapers, so I just wanted to get it done. I checked stall 1 through 3, empty. When I got to stall 4, I stopped. It was a large, accessible stall at the end of the hall with one of those complicated trifold mirrors so you can see your back. The curtain was pulled shut. I could have sworn I'd already checked it. "Hello, store's closed," I called out. My voice sounded thin and shaky in the quiet store. No answer. I whipped the curtain back, empty, but the trifold mirrors were pushed inward, almost touching, creating a small, dark triangle of reflective glass in the corner. It was unsettling, like the room was trying to hide something from itself. I pulled the mirrors flat again. I grabbed a pile of rejected t-shirts from a bench outside the stalls and started walking toward the front cash wrap to put them in the go-back cart. That's when I heard it. Screech. It came from behind me. It sounded like a metal hanger sliding slowly along a metal rack. I froze. "Kevin, stop screwing around, man." Silence. Then a soft, breathy sound, like a sigh right next to my ear. Every hair on my arm stood up. I spun around. The fitting room hallway was empty. I walked back, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to know. Stall 4's curtain was closed again. I swear to you, if you were in my shoes, you would have run. But I felt this sick pull, like I had to look. I reached out, my hand shaking badly, and yanked the curtain aside. The stall was empty, but the mirrors were pushed inward again into that tight triangle. And hanging on the hook, right in the center of the mirrors, was a long black funeral dress. It looked vintage, heavy lace and high collar. We absolutely did not sell anything like that in the store. I reached out and touched the fabric. It was freezing cold, not just cool, but icy, like it had been sitting in a freezer chest. The cold shot right up my arm to my shoulder. I grabbed the dress off the hook, just wanting to get this over with and get out. As I pulled it down, I caught my reflection in the center mirror. For a fraction of a second, my reflection didn't move with me. I blinked and it was normal again. I backed out of the stall, clutching the freezing dress, breathing shallow. I speed walked to the front. Kevin was finally back at the register, counting the drawer. "Kevin, we need to go." "Now," I said, throwing the black dress onto the counter. He looked up annoyed. "What's your damage, Sarah? Cool out." Then he looked down at the dress. His face went totally slack. "Where did you get that?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Stall 4, someone left it." Kevin started backing away from the counter. "Sarah, I checked the camera feed while I was in the back office because I heard you talking to someone." He turned the small security monitor so I could see. The footage was grainy black and white. It showed the fitting room hallway from about 5 minutes ago. There I was standing outside stall 4, but I wasn't alone. Standing right behind me, impossibly tall and thin, was a figure blurred by static. It seemed to be wearing that long black dress. Its long, pale arms were reaching out over my shoulders, almost embracing me as I reached for the curtain. I looked from the screen to the dress on the counter. The dress was gone. The lights in the store suddenly cut out completely, total blackness. Then, from the back of the store, in that dead silence, we heard the distinct sound of the fitting room curtain rings sliding violently across the metal rod. S-H-H-H-H-H-H. Kevin didn't even scream. He just bolted for the emergency exit, slamming it open and triggering the alarm. I didn't hesitate. I ran right behind him out into the parking lot, gasping for air. The cops came because of the alarm. They searched the place with flashlights. They found nothing. No intruder, no black dress. They reviewed the tape, and this is the part that messes me up the most, the part that makes me sleep with the lights on. On the tape the cops saw, there was no tall figure behind me. The tape just showed me walking into stall 4. I was in there for 20 minutes. The whole time, I was just standing in front of that trifold mirror, holding nothing, slowly turning in circles and stroking my own hair. I quit the next day via text. I don't go into clothing stores anymore, and I definitely don't look into three-way mirrors. Sometimes, when I catch my reflection out of the corner of my eye, I still think I see something dark standing just behind my left shoulder. Story 3, the closing time stranger. I used to think the worst thing about working the closing shift was the boredom. I would give anything to be bored again. If you ever see someone standing outside your workplace right as you are about to lock up, do not make eye contact. Just leave through the back and do not look in your rearview mirror. My name is Jason, and until last month I worked at a place called Ruddy's Diner. It is one of those classic American spots off a quiet highway in Ohio, the kind with neon signs that buzz and those red vinyl booths that have been patched up with duct tape a dozen times. I liked it because, usually by 11 p.m. the place was empty. I could mop the floors, listen to my podcasts, and be out by midnight. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of rain that is so thick you can barely see across the parking lot. My manager, a guy named Rick, had left early to deal with a plumbing issue at home. I was solo. Around 11:45 p.m., I started the final sweep. I had already turned off the main outdoor lights and the open sign. I was behind the counter, wiping down the coffee prep area, when the bell above the door chimed. It made my heart skip a beat because I had definitely locked that door, or at least I thought I had. A man walked in. He was wearing a heavy, dark raincoat that was dripping puddles onto my clean floor. He didn't look at me. He just walked to the very last booth in the corner, the one that is partially hidden by the pie display. He sat down and stayed perfectly still. I felt that immediate knot in my stomach. You know the one. Every instinct I had was screaming that this was wrong. I walked over, trying to keep my voice steady. I told him that we were closed and that the registers were already shut down. The man didn't look up. He had his hands flat on the table. His fingernails were black, like they had been digging in dirt. He spoke in a voice that sounded like sandpaper. He asked for a slice of apple pie. I told him again, "Sorry man, we are closed. I can't sell you anything." He finally looked up. His eyes were bloodshot and he looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. He told me that his mother used to bring him here every Tuesday for apple pie. He said it was her favorite. Then he said something that turned my blood into ice. He said, "You were there the night she stopped coming, Jason." I have never seen this man in my life. I have only lived in this town for a year. I asked him how he knew my name. He didn't answer. He just pointed toward the front window, out into the dark, rainy parking lot. I looked, and for a second, I saw the silhouette of an old woman standing under the street lamp. She was wearing a floral dress that looked completely dry despite the downpour. When the lightning flashed, she was gone. I turned back to the man, ready to tell him to get out or I was calling the cops. But the booth was empty. The only thing left was a small, wet pile of dirt on the seat and a single, rusted car key sitting on the table. I was shaking. I grabbed my phone and went into the back office to check the security cameras. I needed to see how he got in. I pulled up the feed for the front door. At 11:45 p.m., the door opens, but on the screen, there is no man. The door just swings wide against the wind, stays open for a few seconds, and then slams shut. I fast-forwarded to the footage of the booth. I saw myself standing there, talking to thin air. I looked like a lunatic, gesturing and nodding at an empty seat. But then I saw it. On the video, as I turned my back to the booth to look out the window, a pale, gray hand reached up from underneath the table and placed the rusted key on the surface. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag and ran for the back exit. I didn't even set the alarm. I jumped into my car and peeled out of the lot. As I was driving down the highway, my heart finally started to slow down. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was just exhausted. Maybe the fumes from the floor cleaner were getting to me. I reached into my pocket to grab my phone to call Rick, but my fingers hit something cold and metal. I pulled it out. It was the rusted car key from the diner table. I don't know how it got into my pocket. I had left it on the table. I looked in my rearview mirror, and I swear to you, for just a split second, I saw a woman in a floral dress sitting in my backseat. She was staring at the back of my head, and her mouth was open like she was trying to scream, but no sound came out. I pulled over and searched the whole car. There was no one, but when I got home, I did some digging online. I searched for accidents near Ruddy's Diner from before I moved here. I found an article from 3 years ago. A woman had been killed in a hit and run right in front of the diner on a rainy Tuesday night. The driver was never found. The only evidence the police had was a rusted key found at the scene that didn't belong to the victim's car. The car the police were looking for. It was a silver sedan. The exact make and model of the car I bought used from a private seller 6 months ago. I haven't gone back to work. I sold the car to a junkyard for scrap. But every Tuesday night, no matter where I am, I hear a faint chime like a bell above a diner door. And when I check my pockets, I always find a little bit of wet dirt. Be careful what you buy used. You never know what secrets the previous owner left behind in the upholstery. And if someone asks you for a slice of pie at closing time, just keep walking.